All right, Shabbosai, good morning. Let us begin. So we're continuing really some beautiful Mishnayos today. We are going to complete the Meretz Hashem, Parak Beis. So today's Mishnah Yomi is Parak Beis, Mishnayos Vav through Zayin. Chapter 2, Mishnayos 6 through 7. So Mishnah Vav says as follows. So also remember again yesterday, actually this is really, Mishnah Vav is a continuation of the end of Mishnah Hey. At the end of Mishnah Hey, we saw Rabbi Gamliel reciting Kriya Shema on his wedding night because he did not want to lose out on the opportunity to perform the mitzvah. So Mishnah Vav says something very interesting. Rachatz balayla harishon shemeisa ishto. One of the prohibitions that an avel, that a mourner has, is bathing. Right, so again, an avel. So remember, when we speak about a mourner, we mean someone who has lost one of the immediate close relatives: a mother, a father, a son, daughter, brother, sister, spouse. So one of the restrictions is bathing. Yet the Mishnah says, "Rachatz balayla harishon shemeisa ishto." The first night after which Rabbi Gamliel's wife passed away, he bathed. Amrullah Talmidav, his student, said to him, "Lo li maratanu Rabbeinu, Rebbe, haven't you taught us sha'avel aser lirchotz? Rebbe, haven't you taught us that an avel, that a mourner, is not permitted to wash?" So again, first of all, it's also very beautiful the way you see the Talmidim interacting with the Rebbe, right? In other words, that there's a level of respect. They're asking him, "Rebbe, we learn from you, we listen to your every word. Didn't you teach us that a mourner is not permitted to wash?" Amar lahem, Eini kishar kol adam. Rabbi Gamliel says, "I'm not like other people." What does that mean? Istinis ani. So I will say istinis, we've encountered this term through our journeys through Shas. Istinis means, I think the English word that's often used is a fastidious person. Right? Somebody, or in Hebrew they call it a mifunak. Right? Someone who is very sensitive. So interesting, Rabbi Gamliel is saying it like this: for me, it causes me an exceedingly high level of physical discomfort if I don't bathe. So I will say, so the truth is, Rabbi Gamliel was therefore saying, for someone like me, Chazal did not legislate this prohibition of bathing. And in fact, interestingly enough, this is the halacha. If a person in general, if a person is an istinis, if a person is a fastidious or sensitive individual, so there are certain leniencies in which they are permitted to go ahead and take with certain halachas. So Rabbi Gamliel, I guarantee you, is not taking a 3.5 hour shower, but the idea over here is that he's doing what he needs to do in order to cleanse himself physically, because without that, he would have been placed in a situation of exceeding discomfort. Incredible. And I will say the last Mishnah, not the last Mishnah. Mishnah Zayin. Ukishemes tavi avdo. Another example. We're not finishing Mishnah based today, okay? Ukishemes tavi avdo. And when Tavi, the servant of Rabbi Gamliel, passed away, kibel alav tanchumin. He accepted consolation. Now remember again, Tavi was Rabbi Gamliel's Eved Knani. It was his Gentile servant. Now remember again, a Gentile servant, an Eved Knani, is a fascinating entity in halacha. Because we'll say, what happens when you purchase a Gentile servant? So remember again, what ends up happening is, first of all, there's a tvila and a mila l'shem avdos. Interestingly enough, a Gentile servant is circumcised as well as immersed in a mikvah for the sake of servitude. Sometimes, you hear people refer to, I'm half Jewish, I'm a quarter Jewish. Generally, either you're in or you're out, right? You are Jewish or you're not Jewish. There's no real half states, except, interestingly enough, when it comes to an Eved. An Eved Kanani actually enters into a quasi-state of Jewishness. When does his Jewishness or her Jewishness become complete? When they're emancipated. So upon emancipation, the Eved Kanani transitions into being a complete Jew. So what the Mishnah is saying over here is Tavi, the servant of Rabbi Gamliel, passed away, and he accepted consolation. Now, what does it mean he accepted consolation? This is fascinating. When the Mishnah uses Tanchum, they mean the Shura. But we know we do this today, right? That halacha l'maisa, when after the burial, we form two lines, and the avel, the mourner, walks through them, and we say, "Amakom yinachim eschem b'soch shar avei Tzion Yerushalayim." So in the times of the Mishnah, they did it a little bit differently, but instead the avel would sit down and everybody would file by the mourner. But the idea is the same. The point over here is Rabbi Gamliel received formal consolation after the death of his servant Tavi. Amrul Talmid, if his student said to him, Loli Maratan Rabbeinu, She'in Mekablan Tanchumin Ala Avadim Rebbe, didn't you teach us that you don't receive formal consolation for the death of an Eved Kenani, a Gentile servant? In other words, Rabbi say that, what that's saying here is that the halachos of Avelos, two things. First of all, number one, refer to full-fledged Jews, or apply to full. Number two, who else do they apply to? Who else do they apply to? Relatives. In other words, so what's going on? They're not really asking on the relative piece, because you could offer consolation to anyone for anyone. What they're really more focused on over here is, why are you receiving formal halachic consolation for someone who's not really subject to those laws? So we'll say this is incredible. Amar lahem, so Rabbi Gamliel said to them, Ein Tavi Avdi Kishar Kol Avadim. My servant Tavi, he was not like any other people. He was not like a regular person. Or I should say, he was not like other servants. Kasher Haya. He was exceedingly kasher. Right? He was a kasher individual. He was an upstanding person. Now the Gemara says, what does it mean, kasher Haya? Medaktek b'mitzvos. So essentially, what Rabbi Gamliel was saying was, my servant Tavi was a very pious man. He was a very pious man. And when the world loses a pious individual, the world should mourn. The world should mourn. And therefore, Rabbi Gamliel was saying, again, I will say, now I want to point out, the whole idea of being Mekabel Tanchumin, you're not making a bracha, you're not going ahead and doing anything that would be halachically problematic. What they were just saying to Rabbi Gamliel is, we just thought that an Eved Kenani is not someone you're Mekabel Tanchumin. Rabbi Gamliel says, you're right, an Eved Kenani is not, but an Adam Kasher, an upstanding and pious individual. I will say it's actually also an interesting term to be called an Adam Kasher. Right? What does it mean to be a kosher individual? Medaktek b'mitzvahs. Not someone who's perfect, but someone who tries his best to go ahead and execute mitzvahs with precision, not with perfection, but with precision. Therefore, Rabbi Gamliel accepted Tanchumin, accepted consolation from him. All right, so we'll stop over here for today. Emir Hashem, we will finish Parak Beis tomorrow. Begin Parak Gimel. Shkayach, everyone.